Well, howdy, folks. Continue on with themes here of first principles and how we can understand leftism. I want to talk about personality and how personality traits are actually very much in line with your political affiliations. And yesterday, I talked about the devouring mother and how that is scaled up. It becomes scaled up to the government when there is an overabundance of this personality trait, this archetypical trait in our society. And in part, this is with women's suffrage and other things like that. Mind you, this has nothing to do directly with women's suffrage in my mind, or I should rephrase that. It has something to do with it, but it's universal suffrage that's actually the problem. That's how the Democrats are winning elections right now, folks. Universal suffrage. People who shouldn't be voting, who have no business voting, are basically be given votes. Now, we can talk about other fraud type things, other things that they could do, dead people that are off the voter rolls or have been dead for a long time, yada, yada, yada. But the bottom line is this is probably just ballot harvesting, primarily at least. And this is done by people who aren't very well educated, who believe in this propagandistic system that we live in, this synthetic system. And therefore, the Democrats have the right PR, they have the right branding, and they're the cool guys. So someone comes to them and says, vote for them, and they vote for them. So this is one of the first things that we have to understand about the personalities of these people. They are not engaged. They are not appropriately engaged. They are more concerned about what is cool, what is hip, what is everyone else telling them. They're not leaders, they're followers. And this needs to be understood because the followers are propped up to be leaders all the time. Now, the second most important thing that we have to understand about them is that they are high in neuroticism. Now, this is primarily a female trait, but study after study after study shows male or female people that are more left-wing in the traditional sense of collectivism and social distribution. These people have higher rates of neuroticism and mental illness. So again, this should be reflecting what we see out there, and this should be sparking things to your mind. And hopefully, if you didn't have this awareness, it will give you that kind of little aha moment, right? So the mental illness and neuroticism is basically, again, a female trait overall. It is because it is believed to be because women need to be a little bit more cautious about raising children and all that stuff. And again, this relates back to the devouring mother. And a society that is unbalanced in the sexes, in the polarity of the sexes, such as ours, we can see this rises higher and higher with men, right? We have more and more men like this, the so-called soy boys, or whatever else you want to call them. Weak men, hard times, that whole thing. Now, with that, we also know of Jonathan Haidt's moral foundations, and we know that these people primarily care about care and fairness, meaning they care about being taken care of or taking care of others. They don't actually take care of others, though. I think Professor Dutton gets into this quite a bit. He's got some really good points on it, and I happen to agree. In fact, it's a virtue signaling of care. It's not a real care. It's not a real nurturing or a real mothering. It's a care of self-centeredness, where they get all of the thanks, all of the gratitude for being such virtuous individuals. It's not real care. It's a little psychopathic. But it's care and fairness. And what is fairness? Well, fairness is that they get their way. So again, they project care and fairness onto other people when they take this moral foundations test. But the reality is, it's actually only them, because they've learned to be that infantilized child that the devouring mother has created. And that is the same child that doesn't get along with anybody. No one wants to play with. He is socially not adept. He is socially inept. And they run to mommy and daddy all the time and tell on other children instead of trying to work out their problems or socializing and being part of the group. Or the highest level of this being the child that goes off and says, fine, I'm going to go do my own thing. And I don't mean the highest level of the left-wingism, the highest level of being, self-initiating, self-motivating, self-driven, those kind of things. So that's a very kind of different perspective. The child that always has a temper tantrum when he's not winning in a game is a child that has been raised by the devouring mother. And it's the same children that we see today. Now, there's been a lot of work on this in the social sciences, and Jonathan Haidt has done a lot of this himself. He talks about the helicopter parenting and how that has created these weak children. Again, it goes back to the devouring mother. So what you have to understand, what I started off with in this video is that these are individuals who their personality craves this kind of governance. It craves to be given things for free. It craves not to have to work hard. We're seeing it right now with the whole Twitter thing where people were like, I used to only work 4 hours a week and now I have to work 4 or 8 hours a day, right? That kind of thing. So it's a lot of spoiled brats, right? So the personality of an individual merely scales up to be the governance of society. So to understand that, it's pretty simple. We are all individuals. The more individuals that have a certain attitude or perspective in society, and especially those who are striving for power, the more the governance is going to reflect that. Plain and simple. And we have a lot of that in our society. I think we have a lot of strong, independent-minded people as well, but they're not so much trying to gain power because, well, they're not trying to rig the game to make it fair for everybody, like that petulant child that's always complaining that it's not fair that they lost the game, right? And what does that sound like? Does that sound like Democrats, by any chance, every time there's an election? And I know you could say, but Bill, we had this with Republicans in 2020 and even now, and yeah, okay, whatever. There is a difference in how voting and the methods in which we vote changed, and election day and election night versus election season or week or month or whatever in the world it is. But the bottom line is that there is a proclivity for people who are basically antisocial, raised antisocial by the devouring mother, pretending to be social through virtue signaling, and who are actually more or less selfish and psychopathic. Now, beyond that, we have cities. And the way modern cities are structured, the way that they are, creates a psychopathic type mindset. It isolates the individual. They don't have to worry about their community. They don't have to worry about their neighbor. And it creates this thing where they are only worried about getting their own, or they're worried about being taken care of by the government. And so I think a big difference, again, first principles here, in the psychology of people who are more conservative, right-wing, libertarian, versus those who are more left-wing in any shape or form on that spectrum, is that it is, are you willing to be independent, take the risks? You don't need a virtue signal to feel good about yourself. You don't need any extrinsic motivation because you have intrinsic motivation, right? You don't need extrinsic praise to feel good about what you do because you work hard and you make a good living and you're raising your children right and you're getting the love and support that you need in your family because you don't have a broken family. Versus those people who run away from their families, they go live in cities, they go and try and build new families, they don't really help their neighbors out, they don't really form real bonds with people, they use people as sort of exchange tokens, like with sexual partners or for business deals or for friendships. You probably get what I'm getting at there. So this is again, the personality that creates the kind of governments that we have. The bigger part of this is that those people, again, because they want power and because they want to change things for their favor, they tend to go after it. And people who are, again, are more intrinsically motivated, who are more stable, they tend to ignore those things because they're worried about their own lives. They don't need to worry about manipulating and controlling the external world so much, and they're happy. It's unhappy people that are constantly trying to change the state of things. And if you're unhappy, you should try to change the state of things. I just don't think that you should try to change the state of the world before you should try to change yourself. But that's all I got, guys. This has been O-1. My name is Bill, and I wish you all well.